This is a landscape that Claude Monet painted in the winter of 1873, specifically in February of that year. At least that's what we presume, because we know there was a light snowfall, and as you can see, the ground is lightly dusted with snow here. He's actually in a fairly urban neighborhood. You wouldn't think so, though, because he's turned away from the town of Argenteuil, which is a close suburb of Paris, and instead is looking out across these fields, including the vineyard, towards that hill in the distance, on top of which there is a windmill. And that is the town or the settlement of ORGEMONT. Today, that windmill still is there and is a great restaurant. He lived very close to this particular site. And of course, today it's completely covered by suburban sprawl. But at the time, he was literally on the edge of the village of Argenteuil. This is painted. I'm sure that when you see reproductions of it in books and so forth, it looks as if it's almost monochromatic. But when you have the opportunity to see it in person, you'll observe that it's actually made up of 1,000 different colors. Great many small, individual, deft brushstrokes, which vary greatly in terms of the grays, the blues, the whites, even a tiny bit of black. But in particular, you note that down here in the foreground, there's a great deal of green and red, complementary colors that have been juxtaposed, and so that the eye does the act of actually blending them into shapes. In the foreground are all the stakes of the grapevines themselves. Of course, it's winter, so it's a rather barren scene, but a beautiful picture painted really at the moment when Impressionism comes into its own. This small work is a beach scene by EDOUARD Manet. Not Monet, but Manet, the other one. He was one of the artists who was a friend and associate of most of the artists who became known as the Impressionists, though he was never officially part of that group himself. He painted this picture at Boulogne-Sur-MER, which is a town on the coast of Normandy, meaning north and west of France, and actually very far, or not very far, from England, just across the channel, looking out as the people are on this beach are sort of standing and looking out at the water. England's not far away. You'll see that the picture is really a panorama of the beach. He has used a canvas that is an elongated rectangle, which gives this panoramic effect from left to right. It's almost as if it is a collage in a sense. All these different figures who are not related to one another. In other words, they're not all engaged in a common activity like a picnic or game of ball or something. They in fact are just engaged in their own personal private activities on the beach. Mothers with children, some entire families, and they're not in the water, as you can see, but instead they're on the surface of their own sand itself. There is, however, in the painting a kind of strange wheeled contraption drawn by a horse, and believe it or not, that was a little bathing house, a bathing machine that would take people out into the water far enough so that they could get used to the temperature before they actually clambered out and got into the water itself.